Good evening. Will the Standing Committee on Justice please come to order? Before the committee can proceed with the business before it, it must elect a chairperson. Are there any nominations? Honourable Minister Schmidt.
I nominate MLA Blaschko.
Mr. Blaschko has been nominated. Are there any other nominations? Hearing no other nominations, Mr. Blaschko, will you please take the chair?
Our next item of business is the election of a vice chairperson. Are there any nominations? Minister Schmidt.
I nominate MLA Brar.
MLA Brar has been nominated. Are there any other nominations? Seeing none, MLA Brar is elected vice chairperson. This meeting has been called to consider the following bills. Bill 9, the Street Weapons Control Act. Bill 34, the Interprovincial Subpoena Amendment Act. Bill 38, the Public Schools Amendment and Manitoba School Boards Association Amendment Act. Bill 40, the Elections Amendment Act. Bill 42, the Motor Vehicles Statutes Amendment Act. Bill 44, the Minor Amendments and Corrections Act, 2026.
You didn't say Bill 8. The script is wrong. Forgot Bill 8.
As well as Bill 8, the Long-Bladed Weapons Control Amendment Act.
There we go.
I would like to inform all in attendance of the provisions in our rules regarding the hours of adjournment. A standing committee meeting to consider a bill must not sit past midnight to hear public presentations or to consider clause by clause of a bill except by unanimous consent of the committee. I would also like to inform all members of the public in the gallery of the rules of decorum for standing committees. Please note that any participation from the gallery is not allowed. Examples of specific actions that are not allowed include clapping, cheering, or interrupting presentations. Taking photos or videos of the meeting is also not allowed, and please set your phones to mute. I thank everyone in advance for their cooperation. Prior to proceeding with public presentations, I would like to advise members of the public regarding the process for speaking in a committee. In accordance with our rules, a time limit of 10 minutes has been allotted for presentations, with another 5 minutes allowed for questions from committee members. Questions shall not exceed 45 seconds in length, with no limit for answers. Questions may be addressed to presenters in the following rotation. First, the minister sponsoring the bill or another member of their caucus. Second, a member of the official opposition. And third, an independent member. If a presenter is not in attendance when their name is called, they will be dropped to the bottom of the list. If the presenter is not in attendance when their name is called a second time, they will be removed from the presenters list. The proceedings of our meetings are recorded in order to provide a verbatim transcript. Each time someone wishes to speak, whether it be an MLA or a presenter, I first have to say the person's name. This is the signal for the Hansard recorder to turn the mics on and off. Written submissions from the following persons have been received and distributed to committee members. Dennis Volkov, Association of Manitoba Municipalities on Bill 9. John Clausen, Garden Valley School Division Board of Trustees on Bill 38. Sandy Nemeth, Louis Riel School Division of Trustees on Bill 38. Sandra Davies, Evergreen School Division on Bill 38. Leslie Fernandez, Flin Flon School Division Board of Trustees on Bill 38. Tara Smith, St. James Assiniboia School Division Board of Trustees on Bill 38. Jenny Parsonage, Prairie Spirit School Division Board of Trustees on Bill 38. And Carson Callum, Manitoba Beef Producers on Bill 42. Does the committee agree to have these documents appear in the Hansard transcript of this meeting? Agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed, and so ordered. On the topic of determining the order of public presentations, I will note that we have out-of-town presenters registered, marked with an asterisk on the list. With this consideration in mind, in what order does the committee wish to hear the presentations? Minister Wiebe.
I'd suggest that we allow for in-person out-of-town presenters first, followed by in-person in-town presenters, and then those who are joining virtually to be considered at the end.
The suggestion is to start with out-of-town presenters, followed by local presenters, followed by online presenters. Agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed, and so ordered. Thank you for your patience. We will now proceed with public presentations. I will now call Dan Ward. Mr. Ward, please proceed with your presentation.
Okay. Good evening. I'd like to thank the committee for providing me this time to speak to you this evening. My name is Dan Ward, and today I'm presenting on behalf of the Manitoba Association of School Superintendents, which I've been a member for on that association for close to 11 years and currently as co-president. On behalf of my colleague and Mass co-president, Jeanette Moffat, our executive director, Barb Isaac, who's here this evening, and our entire organization, we wish to thank the committee for providing us time to speak here tonight. Our organization represents senior leaders in public education across our great province, including superintendents, assistant superintendents, and managing directors. I myself have been a school superintendent for close to 7 years, first as superintendent of Mountain View School Division, based in Dauphin, and currently serve as superintendent of Garden Valley School Division, based in Winkler. I started my teaching career in 1996. I've been teaching or in education for roughly 30 years. And like a lot of folks, when I think 1996, I think it's about 10 years ago, but closer to 30 now. Started my career in Frontier School Division and have had the pleasure to serve numerous divisions and schools throughout Manitoba. Our members serve as senior leaders in public school divisions and districts across Manitoba, working closely with elected school boards. Superintendents and senior leaders help define vision, values. We translate board policy into effective practice and provide leadership in teaching, learning, and student achievement. Our association is here this evening to express its strong support for the provisions in Bill 38 that clarify and strengthen the requirement for every school division and district to appoint a superintendent who is a qualified and experienced professional educator. We believe these amendments to the Public Schools Act are good for students, good for schools, and ultimately good for communities, and fully consistent with Manitoba's proud and long history of having democratically elected school trustees. Requiring that a superintendent hold a valid teaching certificate, have direct teaching and curriculum experience, and possess relevant leadership and administrative experience ensures that educational decisions are informed by well-grounded professionals with an understanding of how students learn, how teachers teach, and how schools function. This matters because superintendents are responsible for administering curriculum, programming, supporting student success and inclusion, implementing board policy in schools, supervising professional staff, and working with the Department of Education and Early Childhood Learning. Public confidence in education depends on knowing that decisions affecting students are made by educators who understand classrooms, student needs, and sound instructional practices. Manitoba has not been immune to increasingly polarized political discourse across a range of issues, many of which directly affect public schools. In this context, and without these amendments, there is a genuine risk that a school division or district could appoint its senior leader based primarily on political ideology rather than on demonstrated educational expertise and professional qualifications. The amendments in Bill 38 address this reality in a measured and responsible way. By legislating superintendent qualifications, Bill 38 also reinforces teaching as a profession and ensures consistency across all school divisions and districts. This is particularly important in a province with diverse student learning needs across urban, northern, rural, and remote communities, who are all facing or faced with increasing complexity in curriculum, assessment, technology, and inclusion. A qualified superintendent provides continuity, stability, and system-level leadership, conditions essential to long-term student success. These provisions do not diminish the authority of elected school boards. In fact, they strengthen it. Bill 38 preserves the fundamental democratic role of school boards by reaffirming the board's authority to appoint the superintendent, define the superintendent's duties, set policy, and establish strategic direction, while representing the local community. Superintendents remain accountable to their boards, while boards remain accountable to the public through elections and the relevant provisions of the Public Schools Act. In closing, for these reasons, our organization supports the superintendent provisions of Bill 38. We thank and commend the government for its foresight and leadership in introducing these important amendments into the Public Schools Act. And we thank you and wish you a good evening.
Thank you for your presentation. Do members of the committee have questions for the presenter? Yeah. The Honourable Minister Schmidt. 45 seconds.
45 seconds, oh my gosh. Okay, well, thank you very much, Superintendent Ward, for your excellent presentation. Thank you for supporting the amendments as proposed in Bill 38. I want to thank not only you, but also, as you mentioned, your co-president, Superintendent Janesse Moffat, who could not be here with us today, but also our Executive Director, Barb Isaac. Thank you very much for taking the time to be here today. I only have a few more seconds. I probably have a few more comments for you. I don't know if I'll have another time to ask a question, but just on the record, I want to say you articulated a little bit of your history. I just want to, as the minister, I want to say a sincere thank you to you and to share with the room, folks that don't know, Superintendent Ward is retiring this year. And so for the incredible work that you have done, oh my gosh, I've just done something, but
And the
thank you for
minister's
your
time
presentation.
has expired. You are welcome to respond, Mr. Ward.
Absolutely. I want to thank Mr. Schmidt. I will be retiring, but not this year. I got a few more years to go. Although it's something that I would enjoy if I was able to this year. I do love my job, but we all look forward to that time when we can look at our accomplishments and move on. But I want to thank you for affirming our position. And again, we definitely see the value in this change to the Public Schools Act.
Mr. Wasco.
Thank you, Mr. Ward, again, for your years of service, of course, to the education world. And good thing the minister has now canceled the cake she was going to give you tonight on the retirement. I do have a question for you quickly, though, Mr. Ward. So how many superintendents are there right now presently in Manitoba that are working as superintendents that do not have a valid Manitoba education teaching certificate?
That's
Mr. Ward. Sorry, I just have to recognize you for the mics. Mr. Ward.
Thank you. Our association doesn't provide oversight in terms of qualifications to be superintendent. Personally, I'm not aware of any of the currently 37 school superintendents in Manitoba that don't have teacher certification, but it's not something we provide oversight for. And I'd say without the amendments to this bill, it would certainly be a possibility, because at current there's nothing in the Public Schools Act that would prevent a school board from hiring an individual without those credentials.
Are there any other questions from the committee? Mr. Wasco.
So just to close it out, thanks, Mr. Ward, for your presentation, coming to committee and definitely exercising your democratic right here in Manitoba to be part of the process. So thanks again.
You're welcome to respond if you'd like, Mr. Ward.
Just want to thank the committee again for this opportunity to present.
Thank you. Next up, we have Ms. Leah Clausen.
No.
Ms. Clausen, you're welcome to start.
Good evening. At the first, I do want to just thank Minister Schmidt. I'm horribly nervous for coming here, but I will tell you, at the thought of my superintendent retiring, my anxiety level just went through the roof, thinking it was going to be so I do appreciate that. Thank you so much. Good evening, distinguished members of the committee. My name is Leah Clausen. I'm Vice President for boards under 6,000 enrollments with Manitoba School Boards Association. Thank you for the opportunity to appear today on behalf of MSBA regarding Bill 38, specifically the proposed amendments to the Manitoba School Boards Association Act. At the outset, MSBA wishes to express its strong support for these amendments. We view them as the culmination of many years of advocacy, dialogue, and partnership aimed at advancing equity, reconciliation, and genuine collaboration in Manitoba's education system. Bill 38 reflects policy objectives that MSBA has been advancing for nearly a decade. Our first written recommendation on this issue dates back to 2019, following years of in-person meetings and repeated requests beginning in 2017 to ministers and deputy ministers of education. This bill is therefore a clear example of government listening, hearing, and acting on the considered advice of the public education sector alongside Indigenous education partners. Importantly, Bill 38 aligns directly with MSBA's advocacy to remove long-standing structural barriers that limited meaningful participation by First Nation and other Indigenous education authorities within our association, despite our shared mandates and objectives. The amendments to the MSBA Act will do three essential things. First, they'll enhance membership eligibility by allowing First Nations and other Indigenous education organizations to seek MSBA membership on a basis comparable to public school boards. Second, they enable MSBA to consider membership requests from other education organizations that share our goal of promoting public education. Third, they preserve MSBA's core mandate, autonomy, and member-driven governance, while welcoming important partners whose participation can strengthen the collective education system. In short, these amendments operationalize equity not merely as an aspiration, but through lawful access, governance structures, and shared resources. MSBA believes that reconciliation must be structural, not symbolic. The late Justice Murray Sinclair described for us a mountain and showed us the way to the top. He reminded us that reconciliation requires all of us to do the climbing. Bill 38 represents a meaningful step up that mountain. For more than a century, MSBA has provided extensive programs and services to public school boards, supporting governance excellence, labor relations, risk management, and system sustainability. Bill 38 allows those same collective supports to be extended where desired to Indigenous education partners with shared values and objectives. Equally important, the amendments provide for democratic participation, including representation on MSBA's provincial executive, delegate access to convention, and participation in membership meetings. This reflects reconciliation in practice, grounded in respect, partnership, and shared responsibility. MSBA wishes to acknowledge and thank the Government of Manitoba and the Department of Education for advancing this legislation and for their demonstrated willingness not only to listen, but to act. We also recognize the critical leadership of our partners at the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs, the Manitoba First Nations Education Resource Centre, and the Manitoba First Nations school system. This bill is a result of collaboration, trust, and mutual respect. MSBA is enthusiastic about the prospect that MFNERC or MFNSS may one day choose to become members of our association, strengthening the education landscape for all Manitobans. Before his passing, Dr. Don Robertson, founding executive director of MFNERC and later elder-in-residence with MSBA, spoke of changes that he dreamed could one day be possible. While Bill 38 is not dedicated to an individual, it undeniably reflects Don's life work. In that spirit, we wish to recognize and acknowledge Dr. Robertson's leadership and achievements while reflecting what he would have wanted for this committee and all Manitobans to know that these amendments certainly reflect the aspirations and the dreams of those who preceded us, but that ultimately these amendments are dedicated to our future generations, unto the 7th generation and beyond. Briefly, before I conclude, I wanted to share some important historical context. The MSBA Act originated in 1943 when MSBA's predecessor drafted the original legislation to establish accountability for public funding and define the association structure. Although government operating grants were discontinued decades ago in 1970, MSBA's statutory mandate, independence, and impartiality have remained our defining characteristics. The association is now a nonprofit corporate entity, established under a public statute with aims firmly tied to public good of education. The absence of enabling authority within the Act has long limited MSBA's ability to extend services. Most notably, the greatest impact fell upon Indigenous education systems, particularly following the establishment of MFNSS as the very first First Nations school system in Canada to be funded at parity at the public education system. Bill 38 finally removes that barrier. Amendments to the MSBA Act are rare, the last occurring 36 years ago. MSBA does not wish to burden the legislature, but we do hope that the experience of Bill 38 will be instructive. Should future amendments ever be required, we encourage governments, regardless of political stripe, to continue acting as willing partners, recognizing MSBA's formal corporate standing and the need for flexibility over time. We do not come every day to the Legislative Assembly to seek changes to our Act. When we do, it's important. What is happening here today could have occurred nearly a decade ago. And while we look not to what might have been, we do keep a keen eye on what we do in the future. Finally, MSBA acknowledges that Bill 38 is an omnibus bill. Our submission today is intentionally confined to the amendments affecting the MSBA Act itself. We trust that the committee members will review the additional briefs submitted by the MSBA member school boards, as you noted, regarding proposed changes to the Public Schools Act. Any amendment that would fundamentally alter the legal relationship between the democratically elected school boards and the Minister of Education must be approached with caution. And we trust the Assembly will give those valuable perspectives shared by our members the due consideration that they rightly deserve. In closing, Bill 38 represents meaningful progress, the product of years of advocacy, partnership, and principled dialogue. By removing structural barriers and enabling equitable access to shared resources, the legislation supports reconciliation, equity, and excellence in education across Manitoba. Thank you again for this opportunity to speak. We respectfully urge the committee to support the passage of Bill 38 as it relates to the Manitoba School Boards Association Amendment Act without delay. And I would encourage members to refer to our written brief for additional detail and context. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Are there questions from the committee? Honorable Minister Schmidt.
Thank you very much, Leah. Trustee Clausen, thank you very much for being here. Thank you for your presentation. We very much appreciate the, as you noted, like the genuine collaboration between government and the MSBA. We very much value that relationship, and we're going to continue to build on it. I appreciate your presentation here today, for your commitment as articulated to the principles of democracy, to the principles of truth and reconciliation. We appreciate the MSBA for allowing this sort of partial membership with some of these Indigenous serving organizations even prior to the enabling legislative authority to do so. So it's our you know, privilege and our duty to listen to the sector and to bring forward these sort of amendments. And just to your point about okay, thank you for your presentation.
You're welcome to respond if you'd like, Ms. Clausen.
Thanks for the comments.
Mr. Wasco.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ms. Clausen, for coming today, for your presentation, of course, your dedication to students for quite a few years already, and again, your thoughtful, presentation. I also want to say thank you also for mentioning Dr. Don Robertson, and huge contributor to education all across this great province of ours. So once again, thank you very much.
You're welcome to respond, Ms. Clausen.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions? Seeing none, thank you so much for your presentation. So that concludes our out-of-town presenters. So we'll move to Winnipeg-based presenters, and we'll proceed chronologically based on bill number. So we'll go back to bill number 8, and we have David Grant. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Grant, please proceed with your presentation.
I don't have as much to say about this as I did about 38, but this sounds like a good idea. I think the one perhaps weakness is that the retail sale of new long-bladed swords and machetes is something that's abhorrent. And but the more significant thing is the ones that are out there are probably not being confiscated the way guns tend to be. And so that's something else that is perhaps a problem for Ottawa and a problem for Winnipeg Police. But certainly the distribution, secondhand distribution, is something that we haven't dealt with. We've said that you can't do it, give such a weapon to a kid, but we don't have a system to control the secondhand distribution. I don't think this is mostly at yard sales. I think this is mostly an organization or a friend gives you the blade. But it's something that I think we could go further on than Bill 8. Bill 8 could deal with that. Bill 9 is slightly different wording. I mean, my comments are slightly different, but I think the controlling the secondhand distribution, and it's one of these things that I think the legitimate uses for swords is minimal now. And the legitimate uses for cutting sugarcane with a sword is not as big a deal here. And so if the weapons had been banned, if they'd been prohibited, I think the legitimate use for one of Mr. Trudeau's forbidden hunting rifles, that is less justifiable than would be a ban on all long-bladed weapons in public. If you want to have a sword on a plaque in your office, that's one thing, but the idea that they're okay sometimes, and you might be going from Portage right into the woods, but even being in the woods, I've camped for all my life, and I've never had a need for a long-bladed weapon. So that's all. Just it's a good start, and but I would say that moving down the road of banning them, in public, and of controlling the secondhand purchase and sale and giving away, because if a person was criminally inclined and they had a 14-year-old that wanted one, the ability to prosecute is minimal. So that 14-year-old is going to get one from an uncle or a whoever. So that's all. Just it's a good start, but I can see that most of the criminal use of these things is going to completely ignore this bill. So, thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. Question from Honourable Mr. Wee.
Yeah, thanks, Honourable Chair. Thanks, David, for coming once again and for your insight here. I think you're right to see both Bills 8 and 9 as both addressing the same issues and certainly taking a different approach, but obviously working towards the same aim. I also think you're right to identify the federal government's role in this regard, and the list of prohibited weapons. We've got some ideas about how to expand that, and I've communicated that with the federal minister. So again, I think you're on the right track, and really it's about limiting. Of course, we can't get rid of all of the long-bladed weapons maybe on our streets, but certainly making a dent, and law enforcement is telling us that the changes we've made already are starting to make a difference.
Mr. Grant, you're welcome to respond.
Sure, thank you. And yes, we're all reminded, or those of us who don't work here are reminded of metal detectors, going through the arch and being wanted down because of the zipper on my shirt, on my jacket. But it is something that I think it's intrusive and it's a bit annoying going into a courtroom or into this building, but it keeps people safe. And I think if every public doorway in the city had those, we'd have fewer people taking such things to the grocery store with them, for example. And so I think the one thing, if they're set to low sensitivity, so shoelaces and buckles don't set them off, but big knives would, I would support that, as I would being stopped on the street. People say, well, they don't want police interacting with them when they're walking down the street, but if police had wands and they're enabled to do that, and they just went zip on people randomly, if they were doing foot patrol, I would say that right now they'd catch half the bad weapons that are out there. But anyway, thank you for your permission to talk.
Thanks. Mr. Balkin?
Thank you, Honourable Chair, and thank you, Mr. Grant, for presenting today and bringing up really what is one of the major flaws in this bill as has been discussed is secondhand sellers, and not only that, it's the enforcement of it, and knowing that we're already strapped for resources for law enforcement, for community safety officers, and for anybody who enforces these sort of acts. This puts an additional burden on there that really it's a law within the bill that is just put there more for show, because we know that it's not going to be able to be enacted. So thank you for, or to be followed up on. So thank you for bringing that forward and mentioning that in your presentation.
Your time has expired, but you're welcome to respond, Mr. Grant.
Briefly, and that's one of the reasons it's not just to say some stuff that's obvious, it's the fond hope, because I think a year or so ago, I saw a bill changed in this room, at the standing committee. Things were tweaked and added to it, and I think that was largely a response to the delegations that day. So I still have the fond hope that I'll come here and say something, and Mr. Weep will say, good idea, I'm going to do that. But not this time. But, thank you, Wayne, for raising that issue, that there are weaknesses in bills. Nothing's perfect, but it'd be nice if the obvious stuff was more often responded to. Thank you, Wayne.
Any further questions? No? Okay, well, don't go too far, because we will be going to Bill number 9, and our first presenter is David Grant. Mr. Grant, you can start with your presentation whenever you're ready.
Sure. I guess the main thing, as I mentioned before, the carrying of the weapons is more significant than how they got them. The retail sale is a third of the equation and the problem. And I guess the other one is, as we've discussed, being wanted more often and so on, and being detected in doorways. But the other one, it did strike me a curiosity that even though a machete would be more useful when you live on the edge of a forest, it would seem from the news that they're a big problem in remote communities. And the idea that there's a blanket exemption for sword carriers on First Nations seems counterindicated. And I'm not sure if, I don't know the law and how it interacts. We know that murder is illegal on First Nations or outside, but weapons things probably are too. So it would just, I found it disappointing that there's an exemption, which would therefore put a whole lot of First Nations innocent people at risk because that's exempted. So that's the only significant thing, other than, as I said before, I'd like to have a lot more subtle enforcement. So thank you. That's it.
Thank you for your presentation. Honorable Mr. Weeb.
Well, thanks, Chair, and again, thanks, David, for your presentation. I think I'll just maybe take this little bit of time to just clarify that on First Nations, they're not exempted. They are allowed to opt in, so it's just a more of an active role. Also note that for the committee that we have a written presentation from AMM, and that they are the representative of all municipalities, saying that they support this legislation. I hunt, I fish, I go camping, and I know these tools can be used, and sometimes they are something that are carried around. I think nobody wants to see them carried in a public space or on a downtown Winnipeg or on a bus. So that's what it's all about.
Mr. Grant, you're welcome to respond.
No, thank you.
Mr. Balkin.
Thank you, Honourable Chair, and again, thank you, Mr. Grant, for bringing forward some concerns that you have and concerns that Manitobans have with the bill. And I'll echo what the Minister of Justice said, that AMM did in fact write a letter, and within that letter, they actually call on the government to look at the role of CSOs and make sure that they actively involve CSOs and provide equalized training across the board, which hasn't been happening under this government. So it's important. Thanks to the Minister for bringing that up, and I'll probably be able to read that whole submission.
Mr. Balkin, your time has expired, but you're welcome to respond. Mr. Grant.
Thank you, and it's pleasing also to hear that Mr. Weeb and Mr. Balkin are discussing these important issues, and it's a sign of functioning government. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay, thank you, Mr. Grant. Next up, we have Mr. Robert Erstel. Is Mr. Robert Erstel here? We're just going to double check he's not online? No? Okay, so he will be dropped to the bottom of the list. We will move on to Bill 38, which would be, is David Grant in the room? Mr. Grant, whenever you're ready, please start your presentation.
I think this order is largely related to when I see the bills have changed, then it's my key to sign up. Anyway, yeah, so Bill 38, initially I was going to comment on bullying, but start off with the concept of a high school official never being a teacher. I spent several decades as an engineer, professional engineer, not in management. And in the old days, we'll say up until 25 years ago, the people running engineering departments or running companies that did professional engineering tended to be engineers. And then starting about 25 years ago, places like Hydro and engineering departments at the city of Winnipeg started being run by people who'd never even thought about engineering. And they can do budgets, and they can notice cost cutting and stuff like that. They can do the function of a superintendent in an engineering function. But the two issues, one, it demoralizes the people below because they got to be supervisor of 8 engineers and never more until they retired. And so there's some downsides to a person being in charge of an entity who was never working at the low level of the entity. I wouldn't say they can't do the job, because I would never have said that about the supervisors at Hydro, managers and division managers and so on. They did a competent job, even if they didn't know what engineering was about, because once you get enough levels above, your job really doesn't depend on interaction with students or all those things. So that was just my comment on that aspect of Bill 38, is it can be done. To outlaw it is probably a good thing. And I think saying the same for, it could be applied elsewhere. In engineering and accounting and so on, quite often the province has moved the opposite way. We have been promoting from experts somewhere else. We'll grab somebody from Toronto or Calgary to do the job that could have been done by a local who'd been in the job. So that's all, just a feeling that it isn't, in those other fields, it wasn't a good idea. And in this case, perhaps you're taking a move in the right direction. It's not like nursing, where somebody who has hand skills and technical skills is needed online, and we don't have enough of them. In the case of engineering, if we promote one to being the boss of Hydro, it doesn't hurt the overall engineering. If we promote a nurse to being, not health minister, but to being something very high up in the chain, then we've lost the skill of that person. So I'm not sure where teaching is in that range. I think at the moment, we aren't short. But that was just a comment on that aspect. And back to the bullying thing, my eldest son was handicapped in several directions, and he went through the regular public school system, and he faced a lot of bullying. And this is in the 80s, and the school didn't give him a whole lot of support. The brilliant move there was to take all the physically and mentally challenged kids, put them in with the worst behavior kids, the real delinquents, and because those are the ones that needed extra attention. So the teacher had just a small group of 10 or 15 kids to look after, and that they needed intensive care, but it put the victims in with the victimizers, and that seemed like a really bad idea, and I could never convince our school board that it was a bad idea. So bullying is certainly an issue. It's ongoing, and I'm disappointed that it does go on. In a way, if I was one of those parents right now fighting for a 9-year-old who's getting beat up or poked all the time, I would feel diminished if somebody is going to face similar discipline and attention by the system for, we'll say, a misgender or a picking on some aspect of their being as being equivalent. I would say that getting beat up, physically bruised and so on, is significantly different than being called a name. And they're both bad, and they both should be enforced, and so on. The rules should be enforced. But I think I would be disappointed if people thought there was an equivalence there. Just to comment on that aspect of bullying, and without getting too personal about it, but that's certainly one of the issues that is inevitable when you take students who have special needs and integrate them, is that if it's a need of being short or having some physical handicap, but when it's a combination of physical and mental handicaps, they are very vulnerable. And that's something, I don't know if schools still do that. I haven't investigated it, but that's certainly an issue of those people who don't pick things up very well and don't understand socially, and then have a problem walking or with stairs and so on. So it's that double handicap. Not that we have to worry about it that much, but it's something that maybe the system has smartened up in 40 years. So anyway, I think that's my comments on 38. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Grant, for that presentation. Questions from the committee? Honorable Minister Wiebe or Minister Schmidt?
We do look alike. Thank you very much, Mr. Grant, for your presentation and for your commitment to this process. It always warms my heart to see you come here to this committee and to participate in this really important process. So thank you. Thank you for your comments about the value of superintendents being teachers. Certainly, I take your point that it doesn't always necessarily have to be that way, that it has to be the people that do the work that necessarily means that you can also direct that work. But I think that we heard from a previous presenter who very well articulated why that's very important in our public education system, to have those people that are administering curriculum and overseeing the work of teachers and ultimately, supporting students that have a background in that work. So thank you for that. And also thank you for sharing your personal story about bullying, some of that lived experience. And certainly, the work of Bill 38 is to define, broaden out the definition of bullying and really to support students like your son. Thank you.
You're welcome to respond, Mr. Grant.
Since the minister made reference to the first delegation person, he and his second one were lamenting the fact he's retiring. I'm in my 13th year of retirement, and I would invite him, if he's still in the room, to not go away and never be heard again, because he had good ideas, he had comments, and I think that being retired presents you with the opportunity that you can come down here, and you have a ton of knowledge that you can share. And so I would invite him, anybody else in the room who's retired or thinking about it, to not give up on the legislature. So, thank you.
Mr. Wasco.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson. Thank you, Mr. Grant, again for exercising your democratic right, and whether it's 1, 2, or 40 bills that you sign up to speak to, I think it's very important that this process that we have here in Manitoba gives the public the opportunity to come to committee and share your thoughts on any piece of legislation that we're moving through. I want to also thank you for your personal story. I know that there's always been some growing pains within the education world, but I am very thrilled with the school division and the school teams that we have in the student services that are providing to those students who need those extra supports. So thanks again for coming tonight and sharing your words.
You're welcome to respond, Mr. Grant.
Yes, I think the reference to coming out here and taking part was largely, I became far more active rather than just election campaigns because of that eldest son and the problem he was having. And the intransigence of the school board got me going to school board meetings. And there would be a union rep, there'd be a local newspaper guy, and me, and the people on the board. And it would go on year after year of nobody cared. Occasionally there'd be a choir come in from a school and sing to them, but it was discouraging. That's 80s and 90s, but it stuck, and I felt validated by doing that. So thank you, Mr. Wasco.
Any further questions? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Grant. We will move on to bill number 40, and our first presenter is Ms. Lou Roberts. Is Miss Lou Roberts here? Okay, we will drop her to the bottom of the list. We will move on to Bill 42, and is David Grant in the room? Mr. Grant, you are welcome to start your presentation when you're ready.
It won't be very long. Bill 42 makes reference to antique motor vehicle. I have a couple of vehicles that I love. They're not as old as I am, but they're pretty old. And it'll be defined. I know what for MPI's definition of a vintage and the use of a vintage plate, but it struck me when people are reading this bill, and they're encouraged to, it didn't go into that. I tried clicking links, and there was no, here's what it means. It just says it will be defined. And so I went to the website, the Manitoba website, and I looked it up, and the only reference that the website could find me was that bill. And it did strike me as, and the larger Google thing, including the word Manitoba, still didn't find me the definition. So it really doesn't matter. And it doesn't say what use will be made of that definition. It just says it'll be defined. And so it's just maybe that's a typo, but if you're going to define something, it'd be nice if it appeared even in the explanatory notes. Here's what we're planning to do, like 20 words to do that. The driver's school changes seemed good. On the other hand, my first fiance and I were headed off to a motor race, because that's my hobby, is volunteering there. We're headed to a motor race in Michigan, and we came upon the site of a freeway crash. And somebody had flipped the car over, tumbled it down the freeway, and nobody had seatbelts on, and there were bits everywhere. It was traumatizing, and that was the last I saw of her. So it does happen that people get badly traumatized by this sort of thing in the most extreme cases, and I don't think there are many cases like that that are as grisly as that scene in North America. It's probably the worst one in decades. But anyway, that's so initially my thought was that counseling and trauma, assistance with trauma is something that would be part of the medical system. Just wondering what, I sort of disagreed with the idea that that is part of the trauma caused, the damage caused by a crash. So there's damage caused to people and guardrails and vehicles, the damage caused to the passers-by. We also learned that ambulance attendants, ambulance EMTs, quite often have to leave the job to have their trauma dealt with. As a volunteer at racetracks for almost 60 years, I've seen my share of carnage and been the first responder to them. And maybe because I've done it so much that it doesn't traumatize me as much. But I'm just questioning that the reason why that is called an MPI coverable claim rather than pure medical, because like when you fall out of a tree, that's medical, and when you tip your bike over, that's an MPI matter. And so that's all. Just a comment that one, I disagreed with the idea that it's that, but obviously the minister had reasons for bringing that in. And so that was my comments on that one, is the definition and the, I guess, the inclusion of trauma in, or mental health issues. So that was, perhaps the minister could explain, that, the logic behind that. Maybe in the real world, if you have been traumatized by something, you never get treated because there's always somebody in worse shape. So if it's because there is no other service, then I'd be in support of it. But thank you.
Okay. Thank you for your presentation. Are there questions Honorable Mr. Weeb.
Yeah, sorry, Mr. Grant, that you had that experience, or I guess more specifically, your fiance had that experience and saw, that traumatizing event. And I think you've really hit the nail on the head there about the need for this, the trauma that first responders see and others. And, just to clarify, this is not MPI delivering these services. It would still be through healthcare providers, in this case, mental health providers. It's simply a matter of covering that as part of MPI. And then with regards to the antique vehicles, I think one of the previous presenters mentioned the mid-90s, as seeming like yesterday to some of us. Right now those vehicles would be considered antiques, and I think everybody sees there's some flaws there. We really want to have some nuance, which is why MPI will take the next steps with regulation.
Mr. Grant, you're welcome to respond.
Yes, I guess that's one of the other things. So a lot of things refer to, those of us who are really old and who've been very busy and not paying attention to the years going by, like the one I've been working on is a 62, and it's fairly exotic and so on. I think I have half of that model in the province in my possession. But it's having it defined in the bill would have been handy, and it's good that we were recognizing that. I think a while back, Manitoba recognized that sort of thing. We had antique car displays on the property back 15 years ago. So it's something that can be done, and thank you for recognizing that.
Mr. Balkin.
Thank you, Honorable Chair, and again, thank you, Mr. Grant, for bringing forward some oversight that you've seen on this bill and some other areas. So I guess more of a question to you as you read through this and looked for the definitions and looked for the regulations and everything else. Do you find that perhaps this is putting the cart before the horse and putting out a bill before all of the answers are there?
Mr. Grant?
Yeah, it might be a symptom of that. On the other hand, bringing stuff in like that does have its challenges, and you can't get it perfect, but maybe it means that if I discovered that 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, when the bill was offered, perhaps I should have written to the minister and said, oh, is this an oops? Or, because then his staff, if they have it on their desk, could publish it. So maybe that's the typos should be reported to the appropriate minister when they're discovered. Give them a chance to, if there's an answer. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Any final questions? Thank you, Mr. Grant. Please don't go too far because we're moving on to bill number 44. And you are first up. Mr. Grant, you're... Sorry, this is...
Yeah.
Yes.
Minor.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, when I signed up for it, I had dreams of looking at those bills to see which ones you think out.
I think he's not presenting.
Okay. Okay, so you decided not to present on this bill. Okay, thank you. So we will go back to those folks who got dropped to the bottom of the list. So we will come back to bill number 9 and Mr. Robert Erstel. Mr. Robert Erstel. Okay. So Mr. Robert Erstel will be dropped from the list. And we will go to bill 40 and Miss Lou Roberts. So Miss Lou Roberts here. Okay. They will also be dropped from the list, and that concludes our presenters. In what order does the committee wish to proceed with clause-by-clause consideration of these bills?
Numerical?
Numerical? Numerical. We will now proceed with clause-by-clause of bill number 8. Does the minister responsible for bill 8 have an opening statement? Honorable Mr. Weeb.
I do. Thank you, Honorable Chair. I want to thank folks for being here tonight to talk about Bill 8, which is the Long-Bladed Weapon Control Amendment Act. And this is really about continuing our government's work to keep dangerous weapons out of the hands of criminals, but certainly, but even out of the hands of minors more generally. In 2024, we introduced the Long-Bladed Weapon Control Act, which banned the sale of machetes and long-bladed weapons to minors. Bill 8 now brings online retailers as well as secondary sellers like those that are sold on Kijiji and Facebook Marketplace under the Act, so that they cannot sell these weapons to minors and that they also must keep records of their sales. Bill 8 also adds pepper spray into the Act, and the bill really is about answering the calls of those in our community who want to see strong, common sense measures to keep our communities safer. Bill 8 goes a long way in creating safer streets and safer communities for everyone. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
We thank the minister. Does the critic from the official opposition have an opening statement? Mr. Balkin.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Honourable Chair, and I would like to take this opportunity to address the bill here, but as I've done in previous sessions, I know that a great deal of the work is done by members of the administration from Manitoba Justice, and again, would like to thank them for their professionalism and their great work that they do there. I've had a pleasure of working with them for many years in previous positions, and again, the work that they do behind the scenes can't be commended enough. So I'd like to again publicly thank them for that service. Also, make sure that I thank law enforcement that are out there enforcing these bills, as well as community safety officers and other public safety units that will be making sure that Manitobans are kept safe. Thank you.
We thank the member. During the consideration of a bill, the enacting clause and the title are postponed until all other clauses have been considered in their proper order. Also, if there is agreement from the committee, the chair will call clauses in blocks that conform to pages, with the understanding that we will stop at any particular clause or clauses where members may have comments, questions, or amendments to propose. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed. Shall clauses 1 through 3 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 1 through 3 are accordingly passed. Shall clauses 4 and 5 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 4 and 5 are accordingly passed. Shall clauses 6 and 7 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 6 and 7 are accordingly passed. Shall clauses 8 and 9 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 8 and 9 are accordingly passed. Shall clause 10 pass?
Pass.
Clause 10 is accordingly passed. Shall the enacting clause pass?
Pass.
The enacting clause is accordingly passed. Shall the title pass?
Pass.
The title is accordingly passed. Shall the bill be reported?
Agreed.
Agreed. The bill shall be reported. Wonderful. We will move on to bill number 9. Does the minister responsible for bill number 9 have an opening statement?
I do. Thank you very
The
much.
Honourable Minister Wiebe.
Thank you very much, Chair. Once again, thanks to everybody for the participation here this evening to discuss Bill 9, the Street Weapons Control Act. Bill number 9 is another step and another part of the overall strategy that our government is undertaking to make our communities safer. The bill makes it illegal to carry street weapons like machetes, axes, and pepper spray in public spaces. Under Bill 9, police and safety officers can step in and seize the weapons before someone gets hurt. The bill still respects due process. People, of course, can request those weapons back from law enforcement if they aren't convicted of an offense, or if the weapon is requested to be returned. And the bill makes exceptions for authorized people who need these items for their jobs. The bill also will apply to First Nations as an opt-in option for them as they develop their own internal bylaws. Bill 9 is an important step to keep our public spaces, like parks, like buses, like community areas, safe and available to everyone in the public. So I look forward to passing this bill and making communities safer everywhere in Manitoba. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
We thank the minister. Does the critic from the official opposition have an opening statement? Mr. Balkin.
Again, thank you, Honourable Chair, for the opportunity to address Bill 9. I've put some words on the record previously regarding this bill. So I won't continue with those. I do have one concern. I find it somewhat redundant to have the seizure and return process articulated in this bill, where the seizure can happen and then request for return if it's a weapon. I don't believe those weapons should be back out on the street where law enforcement, community safety officers, and others can get harmed by them. And I know the Minister of Justice laughs about that, but he hasn't faced those realities. So we certainly hope that law enforcement and those that are enforcing these laws are kept safe.
We thank the member. During the consideration of a bill, the enacting clause and the title are postponed until all other clauses have been considered in their proper order. Also, if there is agreement from the committee, the chair will call clauses in blocks that conform to pages, with the understanding that we will stop at any particular clause or clauses where members may have comments, questions, or amendments to propose. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed. Shall clause 1 pass?
Pass.
Clause 1 is accordingly passed. Shall clauses 2 and 3 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 2 and 3 are accordingly passed. Shall clauses 4 and 5 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 4 and 5 are accordingly passed. Shall clauses 6 and 7 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 6 and 7 are accordingly passed. Shall clauses 8 and 9 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 8 and 9 are accordingly passed. Shall clauses 10 through 12 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 10 through 12 are accordingly passed. Shall clauses 13 through 15 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 13 and 15 are accordingly passed. Clauses 13 through 15 are accordingly passed. Shall the enacting clause pass?
Pass.
The enacting clause is accordingly passed. Shall the title pass?
Pass.
The title is accordingly passed. Shall the bill be reported?
Agreed.
Agreed, the bill shall be reported. We will now move on to bill number 34. Does the minister responsible for the bill have an opening statement? The Honourable Mr. Wiebe.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thank you again for the committee's consideration of Bill number 34, the Interprovincial Subpoena Amendment Act. Interprovincial subpoena legislation allows courts to enforce subpoenas from other provinces and territories. The bill before us today amends this Interprovincial Subpoena Amendment Act to apply to boards, commissions, tribunals, allowing them to require witnesses from outside Manitoba to give evidence. This will provide accountability in our justice system and ultimately will strengthen the ability of boards, commissions, and tribunals to do their important work. Thank you for the opportunity to offer some comments.
Well, we thank the minister for the comments. Does the critic from the official opposition have an opening statement? During the consideration of a bill, the enacting clause and the title are postponed until all other clauses have been considered in their proper order. Also, if there is agreement from the committee, the chair will call clauses in blocks that conform to pages, with the understanding that we will stop at any particular clause or clauses where members may have comments, questions, or amendments to propose. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed. Shall clauses 1 and 2 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 1 and 2 are accordingly passed. Shall clauses 3 through 7 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 3 through 7 are accordingly passed. Shall clause 8 pass?
Pass.
Clause 8 is accordingly passed. Shall the enacting clause pass?
Pass.
The enacting clause is accordingly passed. Shall the title pass?
Pass.
The title is accordingly passed. Shall the bill be reported?
Agreed.
Agreed, the bill shall be reported. We will move on to bill number 38. Does the minister responsible for Bill 38 have an opening statement?
I do.
Honourable Minister Schmidt.
Thank you very much, Honourable Chair. First of all, I would like to start by thanking all of the presenters that came out tonight. Also to thank the department for all the work that they did on Bill 38, to thank the political staff. Again, thank you to all of our education sector partners. This bill was really developed in close partnership with all of our education sector partners. So I just want to thank, again, everyone that's here today, but again, all of the educators, all of the trustees, all of our First Nations and Indigenous community partners, our school division leadership, And again, most specifically, thank you to all the presenters that were here tonight. So Bill 38 has three main objectives. First, to protect students. Second, to ensure all divisions are led by experienced educators. And third, to expand the supports available to First Nations educational organizations across Manitoba. This bill supports safe and caring schools by updating provisions related to our provincial code of conduct, including the broadening of the definition of bullying to ensure that it captures a more broad definition, including harm to individuals, groups, broader school communities, and also to make sure that it captures the use of technologies like AI and social media in that definition. Bill 38 also ensures school divisions and districts will be led by qualified and experienced educators. Again, I don't think I could articulate it. I don't think I could articulate the intent of this bill any more succinctly or any more passionately or fulsomely as did our presenters. So I think it is important to note, though, that why we brought this amendment forward is because that while, as was noted, I think through some of the questions, it is the current practice that superintendents are appointed in every school division across the province. It's not, in fact, a requirement by law. This bill legislates that requirement. So again, this is something that has been asked for years by the sector, by superintendents. I think it's important that when we have our partners asking for reasonable legislation, that we listen and we stand up, and so that's what we did. So I just want to thank the members of the Manitoba Association of School Superintendents for their years of advocacy to getting us here to Bill 38. And thirdly, these amendments, this bill also includes amendments to the Manitoba School Boards Association Act to expand the eligibility for full membership in the MSBA for Indigenous educational organizations and other organizations to promote representation for Indigenous voices in the association and in our education sector more broadly. Again, I think our presenters articulated the intent of the reasons for these amendments very well. Why? Because we are committed to truth and reconciliation. Why? Because the MSBA has incredible services and support that they offer. So again, we thank the presenter for their words that they put on the record. I think it's important to note that in order to ensure that Indigenous member voices are meaningfully heard, there are provisions in the bill that will require that once the MSBA has one or more members that are Indigenous educational organizations, that the executive of the MSBA must include a director who is designated as a representative, a designated representative of an Indigenous educational organization to sit on that board. So again, we want to thank the Manitoba School Boards Association for their advocacy in bringing about this change. Again, we think it's important that when the sector stands up and asks for help, that we listen, and so that's what we think that we've done here. So again, I want to thank the Manitoba School Boards Association, MASS, the Manitoba Association of School Superintendents, Manitoba First Nations Educational Resource Center, Manitoba First Nations School System, the Assembly of Manitoba Chiefs, and all of our valued partners in coming up with this important piece of legislation. I also want to note, it was referenced by some of the presenters and was certainly referenced very fulsomely in the written presentations, that there was some criticism in the bill about the liaison, what role the superintendent plays as a liaison with the minister. So we found that those critiques were very thoughtful and very well suggested, and so we are prepared to move a committee stage amendment today to support the presentations as put forward by the presenter. So I think I would leave my comments there, but again, just thank you very much to the department and to our presenters and to the sector.
Thank you, Minister. Does the critic from the official opposition have an opening statement? Mr. Owasco.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I'd like to thank everyone again who took part in the development of Bill 38, as well as Manitoba Association for School Superintendents, Mr. Ward for coming to do your presentation, and of course Ms. Clausen from the Manitoba School Boards Association as well, plus all of the school divisions who also did some written submissions for tonight's committee. It is good to hear that the minister has changed a little bit of tune here and is going to make the amendment to the bill to incorporate instead of the into the amendment, as many of the submissions have been submitted today again. So thank you to the department as well their hard work and everyone involved in Bill 38, and we're happy to move it forward with that amendment that the minister is going to be bringing forward shortly.
We thank the member. During the consideration of a bill, the enacting clause and the title are postponed until all other clauses have been considered in their proper order. Also, if there is agreement from the committee, the chair will call clauses in blocks that conform to pages, with the understanding that we will stop at any particular clause or clauses where members may have comments, questions, or amendments to propose. Is that agreed? Agreed. Shall clauses 1 and 2 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 1 and 2 are accordingly passed. Shall clause 3 pass?
Pass.
Clause 3 is accordingly passed. Shall clause 4 pass?
No.
Honorable Minister.
I hear a no.
Oh, I hear a no.
The floor is open for debate.
The floor is open for debate. Honorable Minister Schmidt.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. I move that Clause 4 of the English version of the bill be amended in the proposed Clause 51, Sub 1, Sub E by striking out the liaison and substituting a liaison.
It has been moved by the Honourable Minister Schmidt that Clause 4 of the English version of the bill be amended in the proposed Clause 51.1 bracket E by striking out the liaison and substituting a liaison. The amendment is in order. The floor is open for questions. Seeing no questions, is the committee ready for the question? The question before the committee is as follows. That Clause 4 of the English version of the bill be amended in the proposed Clause 51.1 bracket E by striking out the liaison and substituting a liaison. Shall the amendment pass?
Pass.
The amendment is accordingly passed. Shall Clause 4 pass as amended?
Pass.
Clause 4 is accordingly passed as amended. Shall Clause 5 pass?
Pass.
Clause 5 is accordingly passed. Shall Clause 6 and 7 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 6 and 7 are accordingly passed. Shall Clauses 8 through 10 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 8 through 10 are accordingly passed. Shall Clause 11 pass?
Pass.
Clause 11 is accordingly passed. Shall Clause 12 and 13 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 12 and 13 are accordingly passed. Shall Clause 14 pass?
Pass.
Clause 14 is accordingly passed. Shall the enacting clause pass?
Pass.
The enacting clause is accordingly passed. Shall the title pass?
Pass.
The title is accordingly passed. Shall the bill be reported?
As amended.
Agreed.
As amended.
Agreed.
Agreed. The bill shall be reported as amended. We will now move on to Bill number 40. Does the minister responsible for Bill 40 have an opening statement? Honourable Mr. Weed.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Bill 40 requires candidates running for office to say whether they have previously broken Manitoba's conflict of interest rules in cases where the Ethics Commissioner issues a penalty, such as a fine, suspension, or removal from office. The goal here is to give voters clear and honest information about a candidate's past conduct before they cast their ballot. Bill 40 strengthens the openness and accountability in our election system that our government has made a priority, and it helps ensure that Manitobans can make informed choices about who represents them. I look forward to further passing this bill and moving it on to third reading. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
We thank the minister. Does the critic from the official opposition have an opening statement? Mr. Balcon.
Yes, thank you very much, Honourable Chair. I appreciate the opportunity to speak to Bill 40, the Elections Amendment Act. I just want to comment on the remarks made by the minister here to look at the conflict of interest rules and his government wanting to be clear and honest and open. Openness and accountability are important. If that was the case, I'm wondering why the minister and his government wouldn't have put in the full act and allowing anybody who has been convicted under this, not just a penalty, but anybody that's been convicted. And I dare say it's because the NDP government and the minister's own fellow ministers are the first ones to have ever been convicted under that act, and they want to make sure that that isn't brought forward to the public. So I find it disingenuous when we talk about clear and honest information being brought forward with openness and accountability when we exclude some of the major parts of that act. Thank you.
We thank the member. Does the consideration, during the consideration of a bill, the enacting clause and the title are postponed until all other clauses have been considered in their proper order? Shall Clause 1 pass?
Pass.
Clause 1 is accordingly passed. Shall Clause 2 pass?
Pass.
Clause 2 is accordingly passed. Shall Clause 3 pass?
Pass.
Clause 3 is accordingly passed. Shall the enacting clause pass?
Pass.
The enacting clause is accordingly passed. Shall the title pass?
Pass.
The title is accordingly passed. Shall the bill be reported?
Agreed.
Agreed, the bill shall be reported. We will move on to bill number 42. Does the minister responsible have an opening statement?
I do.
The Honourable Mr. Wiebe.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Bill 42 makes 4 substantive improvements to MPI products and services that will strengthen the sports for Manitobans, ultimately make our roads safer and reduce red tape for Manitobans. First, the bill expands counseling services and benefits that are offered from MPI for those who suffer a serious injury in an accident or who now witness a highly traumatic accident as well. Second, the bill will make MPI the only regulator of driver training in the province. Third, the bill modernizes the definition of antique vehicle to make life easier for those antique vehicle owners who have that designation and also keep our roads safe. And fourth, the bill allows farm trucks to be used for personal purposes to better reflect how modern farm families use their vehicles. And I'd also like to point out for the committee that there was a written letter or a submission to the committee of support from Manitoba Beef, and we appreciate their participation in the committee here this evening as well. Thank you, Honourable Chair.
We thank the minister. Does the critic from the official opposition have an opening statement? Mr. Balkin.
Well, thank you, Honourable Chair, and we understand that much of this bill is regulatory in nature, but I would be remiss if I didn't take this opportunity to remind the minister of his responsibility to Manitoba taxpayers. And under his watch and control of MPI, a trend of suggesting efficiency and rate reductions have actually turned into year-over-year increases. And that's really unfortunate to Manitobans during this province's worst ever affordability crisis. Thank you, Honourable.
We thank the member. During the consideration of a bill, the enacting clause and the title are postponed until all other clauses have been considered in their proper order. Also, if there is agreement from the committee, the chair will call clauses in blocks that conform to pages, with the understanding that we will stop at any particular clause or clauses where members may have comments, questions, or amendments to propose. Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed. Shall clauses 1 and 2 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 1 and 2 are accordingly passed. Shall clauses 3 through 7 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 3 through 7 are accordingly passed. Shall clause 8 pass?
Pass.
Clause 8 is accordingly passed. Shall clauses 9 through 11 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 9 through 11 are accordingly passed. Shall clauses 12 and 13 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 12 and 13 are accordingly passed. Shall clauses 14 through 16 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 14 through 16 are accordingly passed. Shall clauses 17 through 22 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 17 through 22 are accordingly passed. Shall clause 23 and 24 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 23 and 24 are accordingly passed. Shall clause 25 pass?
Pass.
Clause 25 is accordingly passed. Shall clause 26 pass?
Pass.
Clause 26 is accordingly passed. Shall the enacting clause pass?
Pass.
The enacting clause is accordingly passed. Shall the title pass?
Pass.
The title is accordingly passed. Shall the bill be reported?
Agreed.
Agreed. The bill shall be reported. And now we will move on to bill number 44. Does the minister responsible for bill 44 have an opening statement?
I do.
The Honourable Mr. Wiebe.
Thank you, Honourable Chair. Thanks for the opportunity to put a few words on the record With regards to Bill 44, this year's Minor Amendments and Corrections Act 2026, the annual omnibus bill corrects drafting, typographical, and numbering errors. Other minor amendments also made to various acts provide clarity and consistency in Manitoba's statute book. Some examples of these are the Provincial Offences Act will be amended to set a deadline for a person to apply to set aside a default conviction. The Social Services Amendment Act will update the definition of a residential care facility, and several laws will be updated to reflect the Criminal Code's replacement of the term child pornography with the more updated child sexual abuse and exploitation material. Thank you for the opportunity to bring this forward, Honourable Chair.
We thank the minister. Does the critic from the official opposition have an opening statement? Mr. Balkin.
Yes, thank you, Honourable Chair, and not much more to be said regarding this. It's purely clerical and stepping up a number of the errors that may have been detected. But I would like to take the opportunity to thank Ledge Council and all of those that put in yeoman hours on this to make sure that our bills are brought up to standard, and the great work that they do. I wanted to make sure that they were recognized for that work. So thank you, Honourable Chair.
We thank the member. During the consideration of a bill, the enacting clause and the title are postponed until all other clauses have been considered in their proper order. Also, if there is agreement from the committee, the chair will call clauses in blocks that conform to pages with the understanding that we will stop at any particular clause or clauses where members may have comments, questions, or amendments to propose.
Yes.
Is that agreed?
Agreed.
Shall Clause 1 pass?
Pass.
Clause 1 is accordingly passed. Shall Clause 2 through 4 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 2 through 4 are accordingly passed. Shall Clauses 5 through 7 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 5 through 7 are accordingly passed. Shall Clause 8 pass?
Pass.
Clause 8 is accordingly passed. Shall Clause 9 pass?
Pass.
Clause 9 is accordingly passed. Shall Clause 10 through 12 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 10 through 12 are accordingly passed. Shall Clause 13 through 15 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 13 through 15 are accordingly passed. Shall Clauses 16 and 17 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 16 and 17 are accordingly passed. Shall Clause 18 pass?
Pass.
Clause 18 is accordingly passed. Shall Clause 19 pass?
Pass.
Clause 19 is accordingly passed. Shall Clauses 20 and 21 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 20 and 21 are accordingly passed. Shall Clauses 22 and 23 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 22 and 23 are accordingly passed. Shall Clause 24 and 25 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 24 and 25 are accordingly passed. Shall Clauses 26 and 27 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 26 and 27 are accordingly passed. Shall Clauses 28 through 30 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 28 through 30 are accordingly passed. Shall Clauses 31 and 32 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 31 and 32 are accordingly passed. Shall Clauses 33 and 34 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 33 and 34 are accordingly passed. Shall Clauses 35 and 36 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 35 and 36 are accordingly passed. Shall Clause 37 pass?
Pass.
Clause 37 is accordingly passed. Shall Clause 38 pass?
Pass.
Clause 38 is accordingly passed. Shall Clauses 39 through 41 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 39 through 41 are accordingly passed. Shall Clause 42 pass?
Pass.
Clause 42 is accordingly passed. How are we for speed? We're good? Okay. Shall Clause 43 through 45 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 43 through 45 are accordingly passed. Shall Clauses 46 through 48 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 46 through 48 are accordingly passed. Shall Clauses 49 and 50 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 49 and 50 are accordingly passed. Shall Clauses 51 through 54 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 51 through 54 are accordingly passed. Shall Clauses 55 and 56 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 55 and 56 are accordingly passed. Shall Clauses 57 pass?
Pass.
Clause 57 is accordingly passed. Shall Clause 58 and 59 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 58 and 59 are accordingly passed. Shall Clause 60 pass?
Pass.
Clause 60 is accordingly passed. Shall Clause 61 pass?
Pass.
Clause 61 is accordingly passed. Shall Clauses 62 through 64 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 62 through 64 are accordingly passed. Shall Clause 65 and 66 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 65 and 66 are accordingly passed. Shall clauses 67 and 68 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 67 and 68 are accordingly passed. Shall clauses 69 and 70 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 69 and 70 are accordingly passed. Shall clause 71 pass?
Pass.
Clause 71 is accordingly passed. Shall clause 72 pass?
Pass.
Clause 72 is accordingly passed. Shall clauses 73 and 74 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 73 and 74 are accordingly passed. Shall clause 75 pass?
Pass.
Clause 75 is accordingly passed. Shall clauses 76 and 77 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 76 and 77 are accordingly passed. Shall clauses 78 and 79 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 78 and 79 are accordingly passed. Shall clauses 80 through 82 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 80 through 82 are accordingly passed. Shall clause 83 pass?
Pass.
Clause 83 is accordingly passed. Shall clauses 84 through 86 pass?
Pass.
Clauses 84 through 86 are accordingly passed. Shall clause 87 pass?
Pass.
Clause 87 is accordingly passed. Shall clause 88 pass?
Pass.
Clause 88 is accordingly passed. Shall the enacting clause pass?
Pass.
The enacting clause is accordingly passed. Shall the title pass?
Pass.
The title is accordingly passed. Shall the bill be reported?
Agreed.
Agreed. The bill shall be reported. Well, the hour being
7:27.
7:27, what is the will of the committee?
Committee rise.
Committee rise.
Wow.